Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hey guys, what's up? So started off, of course, Bernadotte. I don't know enough about him. All right, Letix Heaven, you Swedes, and Melkor. Obviously, I don't know enough about him. If he's a very important figure to your country, then I should have chosen my words more wisely. That's my bad. I tend to say some pretty out there statements even when I don't know much about something. So that's out of the way. This is the first episode of this whole debacle that I ultimately started this whole thing. I never really thought I would get through all of them, to be honest. And I started parts 1 through 6. This was the first thing recommended. And it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I reacted to this one. I never reacted to this one. And I want to do it before I see the last Marshall's episode. So that's what we're doing.
An epic history.
Original link at the top of the video below. If you want to subscribe, learn about history, love you to click that subscribe button, pull up a chair. Love to have you. For once, I would not recommend watching earlier episodes because this is technically the first one, and I should have seen this one in the first place, but better late than never. Let's do it.
History TV History March collaboration, supported by our sponsor, Osprey Publishing. In the summer of 1793, the French Revolution was entering its 4th year, and France was on the verge of anarchy. In Paris, political extremists had seized control.
Robespierre. All I know is he cut off a lot of heads and then had his head cut off. I know. Deep knowledge.
Control of the revolution. They guillotined the king and imposed a reign of terror that dealt.
Damn, look at this guy. He like doesn't want to look. And this guy's like, come on, look. Is that Robespierre? Oh, it is.
And imposed a reign of terror that dealt summary justice to all suspected enemies of the revolution. Hoping to unify the new republic, France's leaders had declared war on the Habsburg Empire. But the conflict quickly widened, and soon France was facing the combined might of Europe's leading powers, determined to stamp out her dangerous political experiment.
Cool, so makes sense after watching the other videos. So France saw Habsburg. This is the France post executing Napoleon or King Louis XVI. Sees the Habsburg Empire as also a symbol and connection to the monarchy, and everyone else, all the other monarchies, are kind of coming together to protect themselves. Okay.
Meanwhile, whole regions of France had come out in open revolt, horrified by the new extremism of the revolution.
Right. I mean,
let
me talk about that for a second. No, actually, let's keep going.
The Republic suffered a further, potentially fatal blow when the city of Toulon joined the revolt. Toulon was France's largest.
I'll say quickly what I meant. Getting distracted. Just when, like in the large scheme of things, you're overthrowing a monarchy, which is good, but when you get close to a revolution, the people that tend to be in charge first are the ones that you don't want to be in charge necessarily. And yeah. So look at this.
Most important naval base in.
Oh, so it looks like they're cleaning the cannon, or maybe lubricating it. So this spins. That's like a big Q-tip. They spin this, and that like rotates inside the cannon barrel to either clean it or put oil on it, lubricate it, I would guess.
In the south, home to a third of the entire.
See, it's cool to think about all those like little tasks that these people would have had to do.
French Navy.
They tend to get caught up in like the leadership and all. I don't want to talk too much.
But now, rebels welcomed their old enemy, the British Royal Navy, into the port, led by Admiral Lord Hood, aboard HMS Victory.
That's Nelson's. That's Admiral Nelson, right?
Coup. without a shot.
That is, I'm pretty sure, other than the longest, I think it's still here. It's not here. It's still a boat. And just like U.S. Constitution or something, like they're like the two oldest serving warships to still be in service.
Being fired,
I might be wrong there,
the Allies had crippled French naval power in the Mediterranean and gained a vital toehold on the French coast. All French forces in the area were immediately diverted to face this new threat and lay siege to the rebel port. 19,000 troops in all. But since most French officers had been aristocrats who were now fleeing the revolution in large numbers, they were seriously short of professional leadership. Their commander, General John...
Which also leaves a gap for someone to take over that leadership. Ergo facto Napoleon? Question mark?
François Carteau was a loyal Republican, but a court painter by trade with no military training. To make matters worse, one of his few professional officers, his artillery commander, Colonel Martin, had been badly wounded on the approach to Toulon. Antoine Salicetti, a Corsican deputy of the National Convention in Paris, recommended as his replacement a fellow countryman, a 24-year-old artillery officer who was passing Toulon en route to the front, named Napoleon Bonaparte. Convention. Antoine, of his few professional...
This is the butterfly effect, right?
Officers, his artillery commander, Colonel Martin, had been badly wounded on the...
So whoever wounded that person might have set off the Napoleonic Wars. I know you can't insert this. I'm sure... I'm not saying the revolution wouldn't have happened. Or it did already. I'm not saying that Napoleon wouldn't have gotten to the head. It just, you see how little things that don't really seem that important could, them not happening or happening can have huge, you guys know what I mean.
Approach to Toulon. Antoine Salicetti, a Corsican deputy of the National Convention in Paris, recommended as his replacement a fellow countryman, a 24-year-old artillery officer who was passing Toulon en route to the front, named Napoleon Bonaparte, or Bonaparte. Bonaparte was a professional soldier, but he'd seen almost no active service. Nevertheless, Salicetti was impressed by his manner, and most of all, his politics. Bonaparte had just written a political pamphlet, a short story about a young artillery officer who berates his fellow diners for their disloyalty to the Republic. General Carteau thought it wise to accept Deputy Salicetti's recommendation.
And the man, the myth, the legend is born. That will do.
The great port of Toulon was well defended by city walls and a dozen outlying forts and redoubts. They were held by 2,000 British soldiers and sailors, 6,000 Spanish troops, 6,000 Neapolitans, and 800 Sardinians. Artillery would be the key to overcoming these formidable defences. But when Bonaparte was put in command of the artillery on the 16th of September, he found himself with few cannon, not enough trained gun crews, and a shortage of gunpowder and shot. With relentless...
I'm slightly confused about a large thing. So, Napoleon is heading this attack, or what you want to say his rank is or job is right now. They're trying, so are they on the side of, so the monarchy is done, like the monarchy's done, like they are gone and France is in the armies or these revolutionaries' control. And they're trying to capture a port on the south of France that is held by French monarch loyalists and the British who they let in. I hope I'm correct there.
Crews and a shortage of gunpowder and shot. With relentless energy and determination, Bonaparte transformed the situation, requisitioning unused guns, training infantrymen to work them, setting up a new forge and workshop, and arranging transport from Marseille of 100,000 sandbags for constructing new batteries. Through hard work, he was ultimately able to build his force up to 64 officers and 1,500 men, manning 100 cannon, howitzer officers, and 1,500 men, manning 100 cannon, howitzers, and mortars. Within days, 100 to 64 officers and 1,500 men, manning 100
What's Napoleon's
cannon,
guns? What's that?
And mortars.
Okay.
Ultimately able to build his force up to 64 officers and 1,500 men, manning 100 cannon, howitzers, and mortars. Within days, Bonaparte had established 2 new forward batteries with good revolutionary names, La Montagne and Sans Culottes, which brought Toulon's inner harbour within range and forced Admiral Hood to move all his ships closer to the port. Bonaparte also came up with a plan, one that would allow the French to bypass most of Toulon's defences and secure the rapid victory the Republic so desperately needed. Bonaparte argued that if Fort L'Aiguillette could be captured, which looked out across the harbour, he could fill it with heavy guns and shell the British and Spanish fleet at anchor. Admiral Hood would be forced to abandon the port and take with him the Allied soldiers that Toulon relied on for its defence. General Carteau saw the merits of Bonaparte's plan, and on the 22nd of September, French forces attacked Montcaire. But to Bonaparte's exasperation, while he'd argued for an attack by 3,000 men, the indecisive Carteau committed only 400. Not only was the attack easily repulsed, but it alerted the Allies to the danger. Within 48 hours, they'd reinforced Montcaire with thousands more troops and built a new fort named Fort Mulgrave, bristling with 20 cannon. The position was now so strong, the French nicknamed it Little Gibraltar.
Where's Marshal Ney when you need him?
This is not just a grill. This is a
Little
Weber
Gibraltar,
grill.
wow.
An open invitation.
British sea power is crazy.
Finally, in mid-November, an experienced professional soldier arrived to take command of French forces, General Dugommier. He saw at once that Bonaparte's plan was the only way to take Toulon, and gave it his full backing. Bonaparte, promoted to major, got to work, overseeing construction of several more batteries in preparation for the decisive assault. One forward battery was so exposed to enemy fire that men refused to be sent there. So Bonaparte renamed it La Batterie des Hommes Sans Peur, the battery of men without fear. And suddenly, there was no shortage of volunteers. It was an early display of Napoleon's genius for inspiring his soldiers. One that would serve him well in the years ahead.
There was something about this dude that...
On the 30th of November, the Allied Land Forces commander,
British
General Charles O'Hara, tried to seize back the initiative, leading an assault.
It seems like everyone else is an NPC, and he's just like, all right.
On the new French batteries facing Fort Malbousquet. At first, the attack was successful. The batteries were overrun, the French guns spiked. But a counterattack with much greater numbers, and led in person by General Dugommier and Major Bonaparte, drove back the Allies. General O'Hara himself was shot through the hand and captured. 12 years before, he'd surrendered to George Washington at Yorktown during the American War of Independence. Now he got to surrender to Napoleon Bonaparte.
So yeah, if you said Washington was a traitor, I can see the point Melchior and Lennox have. Yeah. Among those most distinguished themselves and who gave me most help in rallying the men and leading them forward were Citizen Bonaparte, Commandant of the Artillery.
In the early hours of the 18th of December, in howling wind and driving rain, the French launched a major assault on Fort Mulgrave. The wet conditions made muskets useless except as clubs or with bayonets. Bonaparte led the second wave in person. Amid fierce hand-to-hand fighting, his horse...
I really wish I watched it. Part of me says, you know, it's cool watching this video, having all the other knowledge, but part of me wishes I started with this one, you know, because there's some information here that would be nice to have, you know, going forward, but, you know.
Was killed under him, and he was bayoneted in the thigh by a British sergeant, a wound that came within inches of ending his life and radically changing the course of history. Finally, the Allied garrison was overwhelmed, and Mulgrave fell to the French. Fort Leguillet and Tour de la Balaquière were soon also in French hands. By the following afternoon, the French had 10 heavy guns in Leguillet, placing the Allied ships within range. Admiral Hood could not expose his valuable ships of the line to such a threat. He had no option but to order an immediate evacuation of the fleet and garrison from Toulon. Small Spanish and British teams raced to destroy all the French ships and naval stores that they couldn't take with them. But amid the chaos of their departure, 18 ships of the line were allowed to fall back into French hands. A badly missed opportunity. Many French citizens of Toulon were desperate to escape aboard the Allied ships, knowing that the Republicans would inflict terrible reprisals on the city. British and Spanish ships took as many as they could, about 14,000 in all. But
the reason I wish it really sets the stage that I didn't have going forward in just the scale, just what just happened. Like the whole Robespierre, you know, cutting off, guillotining the monarchs, just how big of an event that is and how high tensions were and how everyone hated each other.
Wars were drowned amid chaotic and desperate scenes, and in all. But Spanish ships took as many as they could, about 14,000 in all. But scores were drowned amid chaotic and desperate scenes. Others were left to face the wrath of the revolution. Republican troops entered the city the next morning, and executions and firing squads began almost immediately. For the next 2 weeks, about 200 were executed every day.
Did they kill the kids too?
Allied propaganda later blamed Bonaparte for the atrocities, but there's no evidence he was directly involved.
I mean,
the Samsung phone has multiple modes, but I went with Pro mode. We just have more control over the image.
You do you, man.
France's young republic was now fighting back on all fronts. And with the fall of Toulon, the Allies had lost a golden opportunity, a chance to stir up further revolt, deal a lasting blow to French naval power, perhaps even overturn the revolution. But instead, the French Republic had weathered one of its greatest storms, in no small part thanks to the remarkable judgment, energy and courage of one 24-year-old artillery officer, now promoted Brigadier General in recognition of his extraordinary service at Toulon. Napoleon Bonaparte had taken his first step on the path to greatness. And for Europe, 21 years of almost constant war awaited.
Great video. I'm having a weird sort of. It's been a crazy ride, roller coaster. And it's really interesting finding out all this stuff now. Awesome video, obviously, and we're gonna get to the part 6 of the Marshals soon. See you guys later.
Osprey Publishing.